people in Labour would think, what could we learn from Andy Burnham? And I asked that because local elections wasn't the best night for Labour in a lot of places. Lost a by-election, not ideal. But you won by a landslide. You won better than you did in 2017. So what's the sort of magic dust that the Labour Party could apply elsewhere, because they kind of need it quite badly at the moment?
It's build from the bottom up is what I would say, and step outside of the Westminster obsessions. And I know people have heard me say that before, but it's true. You know, focus on things that matter to people, and actually be a bit less controlling from the centre. You know, I think it's really great that Kim is the candidate here. You know, not always sort of someone in and out of politics, you know, but someone properly connected here, rooted. And I think that's the learning, really. You know, kind of go back to that kind of style of things. You know, politics that kind of goes to the heart of strong local representation, and you know, doesn't sort of, you know, bring in all of the sort of the Westminster ways in, which often I think turn a lot of people off.
Labour not doing well at the moment, very bad in the polls. What's going on?
I think it's just exceptional times, isn't it? You know, obviously if you think back, you know, 2019, difficult general election, straight into a pandemic, you know, not easy circumstances for anyone to be on the front bench, let alone become leader of the opposition in those circumstances.
But it's always messed it up so badly. 150,000 dead, which is horrific. You know, 1 in every 433 people have died in this country. One of the worst death tolls on earth. Surely you'd expect, because there was a pandemic in America and Trump lost, surely you'd expect Labour to be able to, you know, people to think the government have messed this up, we'll give Labour a go.
I think there was a stronger sense of that, and then vaccination has come in, and that maybe has kind of led people to think differently about the government's response. But no, I think there's a lot wrong in what's happened over the last 12 months. Certainly the way we were treated in Greater Manchester was completely wrong in my view, where, you know, they did things or tried to do things to us that they would not have dared try in London. And, you know, we did take a strong stand over that. I did, with the other leaders of Greater Manchester. And I think that connected with people, because it's not about sort of calling out everything, is it? And trying to, you know, you can't play politics out of a pandemic. But I think what I've tried to do, but I think Keir and the front bench have tried to do, is call them out when they are definitely wrong on something. And, you know, that I think is the right way to handle things. But it's a difficult kind of period, you know, for an opposition to function, let's be honest. And I think allowances have to be made for that.
I mean, your approach was different though, wasn't it? Because a lot of people think, actually, Labour didn't challenge the government in the way they should, but you did. You picked a massive fight. Didn't exactly dent your popularity, did it? People didn't think in Manchester, this guy's playing politics in a national emergency. They thought, well, actually stood up and made a case. And they don't think Keir Starmer has.
Well, some people said that. But actually, I didn't pick a fight because I was trying to resolve it, you know. And I think the reason the majority of people...
But you didn't roll over, is what I mean.
No, sure, no. But all I'm saying is I didn't try and manufacture that situation. It wasn't typical politics. I tried to resolve it, but when I was kind of clear that they weren't going to kind of listen to what I thought were very reasonable requests, you know, the same 80% furlough for people who work in pubs and betting shops, and, you know, that was reasonable. And when they weren't going to agree to that, then, you know, I've learned this over the years. Obviously you change as a politician, but what I do now is if I know something, if it's right or wrong, when it's wrong, then I will go at it as strongly as I possibly can. And, you know, I tried to do that. And yeah, I guess, you know, you asked me at the start, what can Labour learn from this? I think the public want that kind of representation. You know, when they know there's an issue that isn't right, and then they know that we're not being treated fairly, then really, you know, don't nuance it, say it. And you know, I think that's, if there's a lesson, then I think there is something in that.
Just quickly, because I know you seem anxious, you can knock on doors and chat to people. But there was a point there, though, that I was going to link to, which is, we chat to voters today who voted Labour all their life, and they're not going to vote for the Labour Party in this election. But they did say they would vote for a Labour Party that was led by you.
Well, it's nice to hear that, but you know, I'm the mayor of Greater Manchester, and I'm not going anywhere.
Have you not thought maybe for the good of the Labour Party and that you would do a better job than Keir Starmer at the moment?
No, I've tried twice, and you know, I've kept saying I have answered that question. You know, I'm not. You know, I've kind of said what I've said about, you know, that issue. I don't want to keep going over that. I think the thing is that obviously people here will notice me more because of the proximity to the Manchester, the North, you know. Does my voice carry as much in London? Do people kind of like get a bit annoyed at my voice in London? Probably.
Lovely Northern Nell.
I did have a column in the Evening Standard, so you know, maybe they'll warm to me at some point. I don't know, but no, I think, you know, the job is a big one here and elsewhere in the north of England. My former constituency, Lee, other places like it, Hartlepool. There's been a loss of an emotional connection with people. Let's just call it as it is. That is what's happened progressively over the last decade. Yeah. And you have got to rebuild that. You can't just flick a switch and regain that. You have to kind of work hard to regain that. That's why I think Kim is absolutely the right ambassador for Labour in this election. She is completely of this place. She isn't the usual political route, if you like, career politician. I think she does speak for people here, and you know, Labour needs to do much more of that. You know, truly build from the bottom up.
So just lastly, because as you said, you're going to knock on doors for Kim, and your team are going to understandably anxious. If Labour lose this seat, it's very bad news for Labour Party. What does that mean for Labour? 2 by-elections lost in the space of 2 months, doubling the number of times that's happened in the last 50 years in that period. That's Labour heading for a terrible defeat, even worse than 2019.
But it's certainly a test, but it's one we can win. And I think this is an important by-election, and that's why we're here. We're supporting a great candidate. But it's one we can win. You're speculating about what if. Well, that what if is something that we're working hard to avoid. And yeah, but even then it won't be, you know, we'll have to sort of take it in our stride. You know, we can't overreact. We've got a big job of work to be done in terms of rebuilding the party from the bottom up. One thing I keep saying, and I know it's being heard now by Keir and by other people in the top of the party, for goodness sake, buy in wholeheartedly to English devolution. This area's got a Metro Mayor, you've got myself, and I think this is the way back for Labour in large parts of the country, where you can take a different approach to politics, place first rather than party first. And honestly, Owen, it makes all the difference when you're seen to be sort of, you know, they're strong, independent champion for that area. And it's not all about, you know, party politicking, point scoring. We've noticed in Greater Manchester that people weren't sure about mayors and devolution 4 years ago when first arrived. But this election, they were kind of saying, yeah, you know what, this is kind of working for us. Yeah. This is better politics than what we get out of Westminster. Labour needs to buy in massively. It needs to invest hugely in English devolution.